Hi everybody, welcome back to Baking Music with Kate. In today's video, we are going back to my basics with bread and Christopher Simpson. All of my episodes have personal thoughts and opinions intertwined with food, music, and historic information. But today, I'm focusing more on an aspect of my personal story and about a concept that roots me to both baking and music: technique. I look at technique as the springboard to creativity. If you're able to spend time learning and building the fundamentals of a discipline, it gives you this great bouncing off point in which no part of that discipline is truly off limits. Even when something you're working on is challenging, if you have a strong technique to fall back on, it is possible. For music, I work on technique in many different ways, including things like practicing in the mirror to visually check in with my body and instrument, musical exercises, and working through treatises. One treatise that I particularly like to work back into is Christopher Simpson's The Division Viol. I'm not really going to talk about Christopher Simpson in this video, but he was born in England somewhere between 1602 and 1606 and died in England in 1669. His book from 1659 is full of historical wisdom on how to play the viol da gamba, which most viol players today still reference for themselves. As well as direction on basic technique, or Simpson writes, directing the hand with other preparative instructions, he writes about how to improvise and compose divisions to a ground, or laying open the manner and method of playing extempore or composing divisions to a ground. As a side note, this treatise is similar to Diego Ortiz's treatise, and if you're interested on what I mean by ground and division, I go into more detail about those in my Diego Ortiz video. Both Simpson and Ortiz focus on improvising and composing divisions on a ground, although the musical styles are different. Also, Simpson's book focuses purely on the viol da gamba and talks more thoroughly about technique. I like to think that Simpson and I are in accord with technique being a jumping off point to passion, because his book is full of technical information, exercises, and pieces devoted to playing the viol and improvising and composing music. I think this is what keeps me going back to the division viol. There is so much information and so many different exercises and pieces that it really is an invaluable book for viol players. When I practice the examples and pieces in this book now, it definitely takes me to my roots. It brings me back to a time when I was working hours and hours with guidance from my wonderful teachers so that I could understand the ins and outs of my instrument. Reading and working through the division viol now helps me to refocus on my technique work and reminds me to check in with various parts of playing the instrument, which always benefits my overall playing. In baking, what helped me to focus on improving my overall technique was wanting to learn how to bake bread. I have always baked sweets like cakes and cookies, where for the most part, following the recipe was really all you needed for basic success. However, as I got more into baking, I wanted to try other aspects of it and more complicated recipes. As I worked more with bread and other doughs, I realized that while following the recipe was necessary to a basic extent, I really needed to broaden my knowledge and learn how to utilize various techniques. Instead of just purely going by the timings in the recipes, I learned how different doughs are supposed to feel and smell throughout the process. I realized that you actually have to know the temperature of the kitchen because that fluctuates from season to season, affecting rising times. I learned how to tell when a dough is mixed and proofed enough by stretching and poking it. I also realized that timing in a recipe is a guideline, and when something is being baked, you need to smell, touch, note the color, and even listen to it. Learning to bake bread using many different recipes from different professional bakers allowed me to understand the variables and flexibility needed, not only in bread making, but in baking. I've gone through a progression of bread recipes throughout the years of baking bread to work on my skills. The first recipe that got me into baking bread was from The Minimalist Baker. It is a simple brown bread that taught me and made me comfortable with the basics. Once I felt like I could make that bread with confidence, I moved on to learning how to bake sourdough bread. I learned how to do this by failing a lot, doing a bunch of research on the internet and talking to my friends to help me troubleshoot. One thing that my friend said, Tracy, if you're watching this, hi and thank you, that really helped me is that not all recipes will work for you and that you need to try different recipes to see what makes sense to you. That advice helped me to keep going and finally find a recipe that I love by Emma Christensen on the website The Kitchen. Working through that recipe helped me to boost my confidence and encouraged me to branch out even further, which leads me to this loaf right here. This is the white bread with 80% biga from my current favorite recipe book, Flour, Water, Salt, Yeast by Ken Forkish. He has taught me so much through this book. My bread game has really evolved from baking through his recipes. Also, if you don't know what a biga is and would like to learn more, let me know in the comments and I'll make a video on pre-ferments. Now, with all this said, why don't you grab your favorite slice of bread with your desired spread, sit back with your cat, and enjoy Christopher Simpson's Division in G major from the Division Viol. Throughout my bread baking journey, I have gained so much knowledge that has allowed me to tackle recipes that I previously thought impossible and get better at the recipes I had already learned. And all of this applies to my musical journey because that is what technique and deeper understanding is for, helping you to grow and hone your passions. I hope you enjoyed this video. After talking about all this bread, what is your favorite bread recipe? Comment below to share. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time on Baking Music with Kate. Bye!